Iran launched at least 10 missiles today targeting U.S. military bases in Qatar and Iraq, all of them intercepted with no injuries reported. Some reports say that they actually notified the Qataris, who notified the Trump administration this was happening, so it really was kind of just like an exercise. It marks Iran's direct retaliation for the massive U.S. bombing campaign, Operation Midnight Hammer, which struck 3 underground nuclear sites in Iran. Now, Trump called the strike a spectacular military success, saying the goal was to stop Iran from developing a nuclear bomb, but the Pentagon actually cannot say whether or not the enriched uranium was moved by Iran. Then Trump, of course, is now claiming there's a ceasefire. This is the tweet or whatever he sent out, some statement saying that there was a ceasefire now between the two. Come on, guys, can we show it, please? Thank you. Okay, so now he's claiming there's a ceasefire. Dr. Nola Haynes joins us right now. She, of course, works for Dr. Nola Haynes, working foreign policy, of course, foreign policy expert, professor at Georgetown University. Glad to have you here. So walk us through this. What the heck is going on? Many people say that that Benjamin Netanyahu really pushed Trump into this. And we look, bottom line is we're entering Israel's war against Iran or against the whole Middle East.
Right. So it's definitely layered. It's not as simple as wanting to dismantle Iran's nuclear program. That's the starting point. You heard Trump talk about right after the bombing of the 3 facilities, talk about regime change. You're going to hear a lot about that because the larger goal is this. Bottom line, Israel wants to be the regional leader. And the way for that to happen is to change the leader of Iran by force, which historically never works. And the U.S. is banking on Israel gaining that power in the region so the U.S. can then have more control over gas and oil reserves. That's the big plan here. It's a lot larger than stopping their ability to make weapons of mass destruction.
Okay, but Iran then made a move, closing off a critical passageway that supplies 20% of the nation's oil.
Absolutely, which they said they were going to do from day one, the Strait of Hormuz. Every state has a lever to pull, and this is Iran's lever to pull, as they are one of the major gas and oil manufacturers around the world. And even though the U.S. doesn't necessarily deal directly with all of our oil and gas needs from Iran, it does cause a certain level of instability within the market. It causes a level of anxiety to which is going to trigger gas prices going up. Now, who it does directly affect is China. China actually gets more of its gas and oil from Iran than we do, but it has a domino effect. So Iran pulled that lever. And I just want to say, in terms of the so-called ceasefire, a few minutes later, Iran said that's false. So we have to be very careful about what the president says and how he says it, because we know that he tends to fabricate a lot of things. And this is a very dangerous time.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the same one who fabricated that he was responsible for India and Pakistan having a truce, and they basically like, nah, that ain't true. That's a lie. So yeah, he's good, known for lying. But this does draw us into this war, and it's not like we're not now in it.
Right. So it does. And again, because this is the calculation of put Israel in as the regional leader, and then the U.S. will have access to gas and oil where you can knock out the middleman of all the surrounding Middle Eastern countries. I venture to guess that they would like a word. And then also, we still don't know how this is going to play out, because I have a hard time believing that Iran is just going to be okay taking all these L's. There's one thing about proportional responses, which is what we saw Iran do in Qatar. There's nothing new about that. There's nothing new about a country knowing that an attack is going to happen. It has to be proportionate to what the other state did to them. So that's within the realm of international relations. So that's one part of it. I have a hard time believing after Israel killed some military leaders, aggressively bombed them, and then the U.S. coming behind that Iran is just going to be like, oh, okay, I'm cool, I'm good. I have a hard time believing that.
Well, absolutely. What's next? What do you think happens next? And I mean, look, we've seen this one report that Iran has activated sales inside the U.S. Trump was like, don't you do that or it's going to be even more attacks. I mean, look, it's going to be a back and forth.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a back and forth. And that's the thing. Like, it's going to be asymmetric. It's not going to be like a traditional kinetic, conventional engagement. It's going to be these asymmetrical attacks, perhaps cyber, perhaps terrorism. That's really hard to, that's really hard to, that's a tough one because you never know where a terrorist attack can come from. The only thing that I can say to people is that they want to be mindful of being in really big crowds. Other than that, it's really hard to tell where it's going to come from. And I've been seeing all this conversation about what is a sleeper cell? What is a sleeper cell? It's basically a group of folks that's trained to engage in asymmetrical warfare. And then once they are activated, then they go and they then complete their mission. But they're dormant until their mission is activated. So that's a scary thought. And then again, I don't know how real that threat is. I definitely do believe that we are vulnerable to terrorism. I want to state that very clearly. To broadcast that sleeper cells are going to be activated, that's an interesting strategy. Perhaps that's more psychological than anything else. But to your point, there will be back and forth. What that back and forth is going to look like is going to be interesting. There is also a threat of Iran finding the Epstein evidence, if it exists, if that's what Israel is holding over Donald Trump.
Questions from a panel on Congo?
Well, thank you so much, Nola, for this information. I was actually really hoping you'd be on tonight because one of the questions I wanted to ask you is I hear so many people talking about, well, this is just going to be Iraq all over again. And people who have more expertise in the field says Iran is a little bit different scenario than what happened with Iraq. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Right. So I see how people are drawing those parallels, right? It was the threat of WMD. It was a threat of a so-called unhinged leader. There are parallels. However, Iran is a very different state from Iraq. And one of the things that I've been telling people is Iran is not some small country, where there are just huts out in the out in a desert. That's not what Iran is. We're talking about a very large population, a very old civilization, and a country that also has a strategic partnership with Russia. They signed that in January. And then they also have the backing of China, and we still don't know what that particular triangle is going to look like. So you could have a situation where other Middle Eastern countries figure, okay, who do I partner with? Do I prefer Iran as it exists? Even though they have a tendency of getting, partnering with insurgents from the Houthis to Hezbollah and causing a lot of friction in the region. I need people to understand that Iran, they're not babies, in that they're all cute and cuddly. They are not. But do you want Israel to be the leader of the region? Because what would that then mean for other Middle Eastern countries? So this can unravel in a million different ways. So while I get the parallels, there are stark differences.
Kelly.
Again, thank you for coming on the show. Something that I have seen on, TikTok and other socials, while in jest, I see a lot of, TikTok comedians saying, I'm Black, don't bother me, et cetera, et cetera. It's them people over there, right? And it's interesting because there's a little bit of truth to that. In that, if I recall correctly, many moons ago, when there were hostages in Iran, my understanding is that Iran let go of Black hostages
for
a reason. If you can expound on that and how there's maybe there's a parallel in regards to that, as far as can we maybe map out exactly what they would do? Are they ones who are considerate of those who are disenfranchised by the United States when they do or I don't want to say when, but should they do some level of counteractivity, do they take into consideration those who have also been disenfranchised by the state?
So what Kelly's saying is, if they attack us with some sleeper cells, are they going to hit black people? That was a roundabout way Kelly asked it. But before you answer,
I'm trying to be politically correct.
No. We don't do politically correct over here. Just say it. Are they gonna hit black people? Just go ahead and say it. Now hold up, but I make it plain for the audience. But
thank you, doctor, for understanding why I said what I said in the way in which I said it.
We cut to the chase.
He feeling himself.
Hold up.
He got
No. First of all, I ain't feeling myself. I'm just telling you right now. We cut to the chase. So let's be real clear. We don't do politically correct here. We do black. But let's be now. Before you answer the question, let me add to what Kelly said. The problem that I have in America is we only reference Iran about 79. What we never talk about is 53. And so 53 set up 79. Iran was a democratically elected leader in Mossadegh. Mossadegh did not like the fact that Anglo-Iranian oil, now known as BP, was getting most of the money. He wants some of the money to come back. The United States overthrew Mossadegh's government, and we put in the Shah of Iran and his death squads. That led to 79. So if people should read Stephen Kinzer's book, Overthrow, which is an amazing book where he talks about that. But I just want us, when we're talking about this, to remember that you can't talk about 79. And this is the book right here, which is a phenomenal book where he details the 13 different times the United States overthrew other governments. So we can't talk about Iran in 79, Nola, if we ignore 53. Go ahead.
Well, when I broke news on your show Friday night and told the world that what was going to happen on Saturday happened, but you was out in your little Roromobile, I mentioned to the audience.
No, actually Friday I was speaking in St. Louis, flying back to Washington, D.C. I was in a Roromobile on Saturday. So come on, get your timeline straight, but go ahead.
Anywho, as I told the audience on Friday, all of this is successive, right? And to Roland's point, all of this is a historical narrative that builds on itself. So we don't get here without that incident. We don't get here without a number of incidences in the Middle East, right? And so in terms of, does Iran align itself with people who are disenfranchised? I would say yes and no. You have to understand that there are countries and there are decision makers and leaders who know the United States a lot better than we do, and they know how to tug on those levers. My daddy would tell me stories about Vietnam and the flyers that the Viet Cong would drop, from helicopters, or they would find everywhere about, Black people go home. Why are you here? Your own country doesn't even want you or love you. So while an argument can be made, yes, Iran is very aware of the role in which, Black folks play in terms of how we vote. Would I say that if they activate a terrorist cell, that they will tell them to make sure not to kill Black people? No, that's not going to happen. So I've seen the videos and they make me chuckle, but I really want people to take this very seriously. If you're out, don't think, if you go to a concert and it's just a Black concert, that everybody's going to be safe and okay. I wouldn't make that bet.
I remember, I'll never forget the image when they released the women and the children and the Black people, and that Black Marine was at the top of the staircase in his uniform, and he came off, and it was like, man, them Black people that caused so much hell, go and let that brother go. We're not gonna hold him much longer. But we'll see what happens. We know we got an unstable person in the Oval Office, so folks, be diligent. Nola, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.